Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Oh, we have a great show for you today. It's a first for the MK Show and hashtag goals. One of my dreams is coming true. I'm going to get to meet Representative Brandon Gill. You know him from his viral exchanges he has had during these hearings. He is a star. He is the youngest Republican in Congress. He is married to Dinesh D'Souza's daughter. And he is the future of the Republican Party. He's amazing. Remember how he cross-examined that woman from NPR and also the guy from USA Fencing who really wants trannies to take the place of women? He's so effective. He grew up on a ranch in Texas. I'm just learning about him because I read up for the interview today. I cannot wait to talk to him. He's coming on in our second hour. I know you'll love it as much as I do. And I'm also super excited to be joined by Stu Burguiere, who I just happen to love, but for whom the news cycle has turned absolutely delicious, okay? They are guns a-blazing right now for poor little Karine Jean-Pierre. Biden world is pissed. They are not happy that she's declared herself an independent and is trying to distance herself from them, and they have taken out their bazookas on her in a pair of articles in Politico and Axios, and we're going to go through them word by word. I think you're going to enjoy this. Plus, the U.S. Supreme Court just dropping two big decisions in the name of sanity. So lots of good stuff in the news today. Stu Burguiere is here to help us break it down. He's host of Blaze TV's Stu Does America. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Let me tell you about Financial Yield Solutions, Inc., known as FYSI. If you are handling your own books or you have a bookkeeper, you risk inaccuracies, missed deductions, and blind spots in cash flow. FYSI's team of seasoned accounting professionals, corporate and tax attorneys handle every journal entry, bank reconciliation, and month-end close with unmatched precision, delivering clear and timely financial reports that keep you in control. They weave advanced tax avoidance strategies into your bookkeeping so you capture every deduction before you file and plug you into their network of industry leaders and referral partners for real-world growth opportunities. Set up your free consultation to learn how FYSI's experts will transform your books into a growth engine and accelerate your business to the next level. Act now to claim your free $5,000 business assessment, available only for a limited time. Go to fysi.com/Megyn, use the promo code Megyn, or just call 800-877-4000 today. Stu, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Megyn. I appreciate it.
Okay, I want to start with this. I know it's so good. Like, we have lots of yummy, delicious stories. I want to start with this Supreme Court decision because it's 9-0. Both of these two decisions in which we're interested today are 9-0. One was written by Ketanji Brown Jackson and one was written by Sotomayor. And you and I will like both of them. How about that? You know, the court is always saying most of their decisions, the vast majority, are actually unanimous. It's, you know, a small handful that wind up 5-4 and give the Supreme Court, you know, this controversial reputation and makes leftists say we have to delegitimize them and stack the court and all that stuff. But anyway, this is 9-0. It's Ames versus Ohio Department of Youth Services. And this was a so-called reverse discrimination case where a straight woman got effed over by her boss in favor of a gay woman who she said was less qualified. And when she sued over it, saying that's reverse discrimination, you can't discriminate against me because I'm straight. The courts in Ohio within the 6th district said, okay, you can file this claim, but you're going to be held to a higher standard of proof because you're straight. Because generally there's a presumption in the law that people don't discriminate against people who are part of the majority group. So you have to prove more than a gay person or a minority, a person of color, et cetera, would have to prove. You have to prove, for example, that there's a history of this employer discriminating against straight people. So like you have to show statistical, proof that majority members continuously get discriminated against by this employer. And she said, that's bullshit. That's not fair either. Like that too is discriminatory against straight people. And 9-0 The high court agreed with her. And what this decision effectively does is lower the burden of proof that people in the so-called majority group, here it's a straight person, could also be a white person, could be men, et cetera, people who are not considered part of any protected class, now have to meet in order to bring what we used to just call reverse discrimination claims. This is great. Your thoughts?
It is fantastic, Megyn, and it does kind of makes you sit back and say, hey, there actually is sanity out there. This can still happen. I love this. And I will be honest with you, if you would have told me before this that it was going to be 9-0, I would have been shocked. I mean, it is true, as you point out, that there are a lot of 9-0 cases. There's several of them today, actually. And that does happen pretty often. This type of case, though, I wouldn't expect to be 9-0.
Right.
Maybe you get Kagan, maybe. But I would have expected at least a 7-2 or 6-3 or 7-2 situation.
Sotomayor and Jackson.
Sotomayor.
Part of that. Jackson wrote the opinion.
It's legitimately shocking. And one of the things I really love about it is there's been this movement over the past 10, 20 years to take this idea of, to use a blanket sort of term to describe it, the color blindness aspect, right? This vision that we had going back to MLK on race, but also for many other things, that sexual preference and other things, where we're just supposed to see people and judge them on their merit. This goes back to the founding of the country. And George Washington had a badge that he would award, and it was called the Merit Badge. And it's one of the founding principles. It was not a society built on these caste systems. That's not who we are as Americans. And there's been a push over the past 10, 20 years to really reverse that. And this push for equity instead of equality, this idea of equality of outcomes as opposed to equality of opportunity. And for a really long time, it seemed like we were going down a road that didn't end well. And while a lot of the opinion makers, you go listen to The View, they'll express this very stupidly on a day-to-day basis, but the law didn't change. That principle of colorblindness is still entrenched in the law. Our justices still recognize it, even crazy ones like Sonia Sotomayor. And that is really encouraging.
And you know what? It's great because there should be no presumption in today's day and age that majority group members would not be discriminated against. Given the lunatic left and their takeover of so many institutions, and, you get boycotted if you don't post the black square, and you've got to have your pride flag out there, or you're going to get some march in front of your business. You've got the Human Rights Council giving you grades on just how woke you are. Given all of that, there should not be a presumption that no employer really discriminates against people who are members of the so-called majority, white people or guys or straight people. Bullshit. That's what's been very much on trend and in favor, especially over the past 5, 10, 15 years. So while this opinion doesn't, base itself on that reality, it comes along at just the right time because majority members do not have some special preference from most employers. To the contrary.
Yeah. Look, there are entire industries where white dudes don't even bother to apply at this point.
That's right.
This is something that is really happening. And there was also, to acknowledge the obvious truth, times where, other races were discriminated against in really serious and terrible ways. We all know that's part of American history. The solution to that, to disagree with Ibram Kendi, is not more discrimination. The solution to past discrimination is not current discrimination, and the solution to current discrimination is not future discrimination. That's what the left really tried.
Let me say this. So Ibram X. Kendi can suck it because he thinks he's the ultimate authority because he's black and he considers himself an intellectual. Well, guess what? Clarence Thomas is also black and an intellectual. Ketanji Brown Jackson, same. She's on the U.S. Supreme Court. And they have both said Ibram X. Kendi is totally wrong. Let me read you part of the Thomas concurrence. Courts with this rule, because there was a split in the circuits, half were making majority plaintiffs, white people, et cetera, prove this extra stuff. And half were saying, no, they don't have to. So the U.S. Supreme Court really had to resolve this once and for all. And so Thomas said this: courts who follow this rule of making, majority plaintiffs prove more have enshrined into the anti-discrimination law an explicitly race-based preference. White plaintiffs must prove the existence of background circumstances, while non-white plaintiffs need not do so. He said that this decision obviates the need for courts to engage in the sordid business of dividing people by race or other protected traits. I mean, it is a final judgment on that Kendi nonsense from a court that includes 2 black members, one as conservative as they come and one as liberal as they come.
I love Clarence Thomas. If he's not the most important man in America, I don't know who is. He is just fantastic, and he's just so good on issues like this in particular. He just doesn't put up with it at all. He says "suck it" basically in his rulings, as you pointed out.
Yes, you had to read between the lines, but it's there.
It's there. It's there. We have this phrase that is kind of important to our country, that all men are created equal, and we've not lived up to that at every point in our history. But another part of that is implicit in this, because everyone focuses on equal in that phrase, and that's an important part of the phrase, of course, but also created is. It means that we all start on an equal ground. And what you do with your life is up to you. You are supposed to be able to make your own life as you go through it. You're created equal. It doesn't mean everything in life comes out equal. And what the left is trying to do is implement this sort of outcome equality, if you will, that honestly at this point doesn't even seem equal. Like, they're trying to punish stuff that, I don't know, somebody's great-great-grandfather did that I had nothing to do with. I had nothing to do with slavery, Megyn. I promise you. I have no slaves on my plantation in my cul-de-sac. That's not something I'm engaging in, and nor would I want to. And thank you. And I will say, if you legalize slavery today, people would not want to engage in it because they know it's abhorrent. Right?
I think P. Diddy wants to engage in it. I beg to differ. I think Puff Daddy has been engaging in it for quite some time based on the testimony I'm hearing. But keep going.
You're 100% true on that, and I wish I had thought of that, but you're right. It does happen. And look, there are instances of this happening, sadly, across the country and across the world, frankly. Most of it's gone from here. But generally speaking, when we talk about high ideals, not the failures, but what we want out of a country, that is really where the disagreement is between the left and the right. We all recognize that there are failures, right? But at the end of the day, what we want, I think, on the right is people to be equal. That when you go up against, when your son or daughter tries to get into Harvard and they are Asian, they should have the same ability to get into the school based on whether their test scores are good and the things that they do and the things that they bring to the table. They shouldn't be demoted because their ancestry comes from another part of the world. That should be obvious. I thought it was obvious to all of us very recently, and that has faded away. But luckily the courts are there, and I do fear that the courts often recently are the only thing holding back a lot of these terrible policies. Certainly over this previous administration, it seemed like the only thing stopping the worst things from occurring in our society were the courts. Thank God they're there and doing the things that they are.
All right, let me give you the second decision that's of interest to us. This is Catholic Charities versus Wisconsin Labor and Industry Review Commission. This is another 9-0 decision. This opinion was authored by Sotomayor, and it's a win for Catholic Charities. So what was happening was Catholic Charities in Wisconsin was helping people with disabilities and who had mental health issues and, providing assistance to them. And they had been contributing to the state unemployment tax system since the 1970s. And then they said, we are a religious group. We should have the same tax exempt status that all religious groups have, and sought that tax exempt status from the state of Wisconsin. And the state said, no, you can't have it. And the reason you can't have it is because you're not proselytizing. You're not out there preaching the gospel as you help the disabled people. And you are not limiting your charitable services to Catholics. So because they're willing to help disabled Muslims and Jews and atheists, the Wisconsin state system said, no, you're not a religious organization. And so Catholic Charities, which is an arm of the Catholic Church, filed a lawsuit saying, this isn't their phrase, but mine, this is bullshit. Okay, back to our basic legal terms. And the Supreme Court just agreed. The Supreme Court actually agreed with them. This is from the underlying court. The Wisconsin Supreme Court found against them, saying, although Catholic Charities may have religious motivations, it acknowledged that they're not operated primarily for religious purposes because it does not attempt to imbue people who participate in its programs with the Catholic faith, nor supply any religious materials to program participants or employees. Again, saying like, and then they say, and you employ people of all faiths and provide services to people of all faiths. So that was the thing. Like you need to preach the gospel more, and you need to only help Catholics, and then maybe you could have taxes. It's so ridiculous. Now, never mind that you're an arm of the Catholic Church. So here's the Supreme Court decision, reversed 9-0 in an opinion authored by Justice Sotomayor. Thomas and Justice Jackson also filed concurring opinions. Sotomayor writes, the state court's ruling violates the First Amendment by discriminating based on religious practices. Quote, it is fundamental to our constitutional order that the government maintain neutrality between religion and religion. When the government distinguishes among religions based on theological differences in their provision of services, it imposes a denominational preference that must satisfy the highest level of judicial scrutiny. And what she's basically saying is you wouldn't give this to them because they're Catholic, and you would have given it to a different religion doing the same stuff, and that's not okay. I go Sotomayor. What's happening? Wait, am I awake? Is this happening?
I think we've gone through a wormhole here, Megyn, and I don't recognize the world I'm living in, but I like it. It's very scenic on this side of the dimension, and I kind of like it over here. Yeah, I mean, it's great. Look, I think these things should be obvious, right? That you can't pick one religion over another as a state. It's so funny that when you describe the case, Megyn, it strikes me as something that I would normally hear as a criticism of a Catholic charity. You guys proselytize too much, right?
Yeah.
You guys will only serve Catholics. We can't. That's the criticism you normally hear, and here it's a defense. It's a proper defense, though, I will say. I mean, quite clearly, that the fact that a group wants to take their own time and their own resources to go help people that are not in their religious group, that they're not pressuring to convert. That's something that's great. It's fantastic. It's something it's a wonderful thing about what Catholic Charities are doing.
Like Wisconsin taxpayers are like, we're out. Unless you try to convert people, you cannot help the disabled. That's wrong.
Unless you get people betting on the next pope, then you're not allowed to do this. That doesn't make any sense. I mean,
none.
It's quite clear that any group that will help a group in need is something that we should be cheering on in this country outside of the legal structure, which quite obviously delineates a freedom of religion that would make it obvious that you can't do this type of thing. I will say, the court has been really good on religious liberty. We had one case recently, which was a 4-4 case that I think would have been a 5-4 if Amy Coney Barrett had not recused herself. But generally speaking, we've seen really good rulings on religious liberty. First Liberty Institute has been really good on this. They've been working a lot of these cases. So I'm really happy about where we are on this, and we're moving in the right direction. And I think back to the way the country was designed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because when she was in her confirmation hearings, Ketanji Brown Jackson said she considers herself an originalist when it comes to her judicial philosophy, interpreting the text consistent with the way the founding fathers who wrote the Constitution would have interpreted it. And a lot of us on the right who are more Federalist Society type lawyers are like, what? I mean, kind of saw just at least a glimmer of hope for her. We understood she would be a leftist in most of the decisions, but saw a glimmer of hope there. And I feel like that glimmer is shining today. So we will take the W. Thank you to the U.S. Supreme Court for restoring sanity on those fronts. It's all great. All great news. Those are terrific. Okay, so moving on. The second best story of the day is the Karine Jean-Pierre pile-on. It's amazing. The left is so mad at her in this pair of articles, which are just, I don't even know which one to begin with. I guess I'll start with Axios, because our pal Alex Thompson wrote this one. The headline, Biden world goes scorched earth on Karine Jean-Pierre. Apparently her little book launch isn't going over well. We played this yesterday during the show, but let me show you a little bit from her Instagram book announcement. She's writing a book called Independent and wants to be your steward out of the hard partisan system and into political independence where you are not loyal to a party. Here she is in part.
But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect our democracy?
No, they don't.
How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next? Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this
you don't
is
have
my
answers.
Answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass.
Oh my God. All right, just before I get to the pile-on, she's going to combat misinformation? She is going to combat misinformation? A paid liar? I mean, is this, just as a little refresher, this is the woman who wants to correct misinformation now. Let's play SOT 2.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with him. We just got back from New Mexico.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? She must not be here.
No, I totally understand. I just explained she was on top of mind.
The book is suggesting the president tells aides he's tired.
But that's in the excerpt, right?
Yeah, and that's why there have been so few public events before 10 a.m.
I mean, that's a ridiculous assumption to make. I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not. What we have released has been very comprehensive. It has been. It has been transparent. With age comes wisdom and comes experience. And I think that matters as well.
He's as sharp as ever.
He is as sharp as ever, as I have known him to be in my engagement, in my experience.
This is after
with
the
him.
debate.
And I know when I walk into the Oval Office or see him on Air Force One, I have to be on top of my game.
Okay. I would put his stamina up against anyone. Is anyone hiding information about his inability? Absolutely not. After the debate, sharp as ever. She's an effing liar. She was paid for it. She did it with absolutely no qualms whatsoever. And now she wants to be the self-appointed czar of combating misinformation in her book declaring her political independence. All right, so now we get to the juicy stuff, Stu. It's not just those of us on the right who are recoiling and laughing in disbelief at this. The left has had it with Karine Jean-Pierre. She is under the bus. The bus has backed up. It has gone forward. It has backed up. It has gone forward. And it's going to keep doing that all the way through publication in October. Okay, Alex Thompson reports. Her announcement Wednesday led former Biden aides to tee off on her. Many quietly had fumed for years, believing she was incompetent at her job at the White House podium and more interested in promoting herself than Joe Biden. News of her book was the final straw for many people who had worked for her. The fighting within Biden world is part of larger post-election angst and grievances amid new reporting of how Biden's staff tried to hide his physical and mental decline during his presidency. Jean-Pierre was a key part of the effort to conceal Biden's decline. This is Thompson, quoting again from his piece in Axios, vouching for his fitness and insisting that the president, then 81, was, quote, as sharp as ever. You heard it there yourself. Even after the disastrous debate, what they're saying. One former White House official who worked closely with Jean-Pierre told Axios she, quote, was one of the most ineffectual and unprepared people I have ever worked with. She had meltdowns after any interview that asked about a topic not sent over by producers. She did not know how to manage a team. She didn't know how to shape or deliver a message, and she often created more problems than she solved. A former Biden communications official threw more wood on the fire. Quote, "The hubris of thinking you can position yourself as an outsider when you not only have enjoyed the perks of extreme proximity to power, which bestows the name recognition needed to sell books off your name, but have actively wielded it from the biggest pulpit there is as breathtaking as it is desperate. It is difficult to see how this is anything but a bizarre cash grab." I'll give you one more before I'll give it to you. Another former White House official familiar with the dynamics telling Axios, quote, "The amount of time that was spent coddling Karine Jean-Pierre and appeasing her was astronomical compared to our attention on actual matters of substance." They also are reporting that she wanted, in addition to her multiple magazine spreads, to get a job on The View. Upon leaving the Post, they never returned her phone calls. And so now we get this book. Stu Burguiere, thoughts on it?
It's almost too delicious to describe.
Isn't it?
Megyn, we're here. We've done it. I don't know how long this lasts, but we've reached the sunny uplands of history. We are here.
We deserve this.
Yes, thank you. We're finally at this point where everyone just admits the stuff we were saying is true.
It's true. It's so good.
I can't believe it. I don't think I've ever seen this period before. There have been periods where conservatives have said things and we turned out to be right, and that's happened. This is different. This is us saying things, and then the mainstream media and every Democratic official is just coming out and saying, yeah, by the way, everything the conservatives were saying the last 4 years were completely accurate. I don't know what we did to deserve this, but I love this. I mean, we have been saying all of this. She always looked underprepared. One of the reasons we noted it is because she kept looking down and reading every word that she said, the most basic arguments that would be brought up to her, that even though the Biden administration often was asking her to tell things to the American people that are untrue, they were basic things that any normal, competent human being, let alone a press secretary, would be able to talk themselves out of. She couldn't do it. She had to read every single word. It was quite clear by just based on the amount of different outfits she had, that her wardrobe was was much more important than what she was doing on a day-to-day basis. She was constantly focused on image issues, Vogue profiles, all of this nonsense that had nothing to do with the job that, by the way, we should note, Joe Biden was not paying her for. We were paying for. That job is a job that is created for what happens in the White House to be communicated to the American people. It is a job that we are the employers on this job. That is not a campaign job. She treated it, as many others do as well, as a campaign job, and a job that, honestly, she thought it was her job to come out here and just lie constantly. You played the clips. What, 4, 5, 6 of those clips you played were after the debate. After even the most, ostrich in the sand sort of person would say, hey, this is obviously going wrong. Every Democrat was on record saying it, and she still stuck to that line.
You temper the message at that point, at least, right? Just so as not to make an absolute fool of yourself. She didn't. Yes. Kamala Harris didn't. And then the nerve of these Vogue profiles. I'm sorry, but Karine Jean-Pierre is not even close to the most glamorous press secretary we've had. Where was Dana Perino's Vogue spread? She's stunningly beautiful. Where was Kayleigh McEnany's Vogue spread? Where's Caroline Leavitt's Vogue spread? All I see is nasty hit pieces on her, like people zeroing in on this feature or that and trying to rip on one of the most beautiful public figures we have in America. It's just Karine Jean-Pierre, because she was out there every day. I'm black and I'm a lesbian and I'm a woman. I'm all the things and I'm a first. And therefore you have to worship at the altar of KJP. Only we didn't. But Vogue did. Vogue did, because she was a paid liar doing the president's bidding. All right, let me go on, because There's just too, I'm like, I could do this all day. I don't really have to do any other news than this. A former senior spokesperson in Biden's administration to Axios. It is hard to believe someone could look at the past year and genuinely think the party left Joe Biden. That's why I'm leaving the Democratic Party, which is what she's saying in her promo. A former White House comms official, that means somebody who was working with or next to her, added, today, Karine lost the only constituency that ever supported her, party line Democrats. They note Karine Jean-Pierre did not respond to requests for comments. Despite longstanding internal frustration with her performance since the day she took over as press secretary after Psaki left in mid-2022, Biden aides largely had stayed silent because she was seen as untouchable. And now here's where Alex Thompson's reporting in that book, Original Sin, kicks in. She was seen as untouchable given her close relationship with Jill Biden's top aide, Anthony Bernal, who has emerged as a total effing villain. Anthony Bernal is a villain. Read the book. He was the right-hand man of the power-crazy Jill Biden, and he thought he was the queen's hand. I mean, that's really what he acted like, according to this book. The enforcer, making sure, he's running again. You don't do one term, you do 2 terms. Irrespective of what Joe Biden wanted or was best for him, he seems to have known before Joe Biden knew that Joe was running for a second term because Queen Jill had decided, and this guy was hand to the queen. Okay, so Jean-Pierre was untouchable because she had his blessing. So she was kissing his ass to make sure she was good. During Biden's presidency, Bernal had a hand in hiring many White House aides who were prioritized for their loyalty. That's what they wanted. Jean-Pierre also caused internal drama by repeatedly blocking National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby from joining her at the White House podium, even when national security issues were at the forefront of the news. A Biden spokesperson declined to comment. Right, she didn't have the confidence to have him up there because she knew she was a know-nothing. That was the one thing she knew. One thing the know-nothing knew was that she knew nothing. Okay, they go on. Some former Biden aides said Jean-Pierre's tenure was complicated by her work with, this is juicy, with a New York-based publicist named Gilda Squire. Jean-Pierre was the focus of several magazine profiles and appeared on The View in New York. At one point, she wanted to appear on the show once a week while the press secretary. Within the White House, there were concerns about this Gilda Squire being looped in on internal emails regarding Jean-Pierre's profiles and promotional appearances. What press secretary has her own press secretary? That's what this woman was doing for her. She had a PR person running PR for her, which is inherently inconsistent. The only PR you're supposed to be worried about is the bosses, making sure you're protecting him, not your own ass. But she wanted more magazine spreads. Concerns, Axios goes on, about Jean-Pierre's self-promotion were even raised with the White House counsel's office because some staffers felt torn between their administration duties, and helping Jean-Pierre promote herself nonstop, according to a former White House aide familiar with the internal dynamics. So people were going to the White House counsel saying, should I spend my time creating a better profile for Karine Jean-Pierre and giving interviews about how amazing she is? Or should I spend my time working on White House duties for Joe Biden? And then here's the wrinkle with this woman, Gilda Squire. In February of 2024, Alex Thompson went to Squire. He knew, before Biden left office, it's February 24. He knew that Jean-Pierre had hired this person and that she was working with this person on PR for herself. So he emailed Gilda Squire and said, are you helping her? And he writes now publicly, Squire asked to go off the record and denied she was working with Jean-Pierre to navigate and boost the press secretary's public profile. As a result of her explicit denial, Axios did not report Squire's involvement at the time. However, internal White House emails later obtained by Axios show that Squire was copied, and he provides a copy of the email. I've seen it myself. Was copied on emails relating to Jean-Pierre's publicity work. The messages included a September 2023 email. So that's long before February of 24 when he's asking Gill D'Souza, are you doing PR work with her? A 2023 email describing plans for her Vogue magazine profile. As for comment Wednesday, Squire told Axios, Karine and I did not decide to engage on a professional level until after she left the White House. You might want to get your facts straight before you accuse someone of being a liar. Please do not ever contact me again. Then he sent her a copy of the 2023 email on which she, Gill D'Souza, was copied on Karine Jean-Pierre's Vogue profile, and Squire, quote, did not respond further. She's another effing liar, in my opinion. She was working with her. She didn't have the balls to admit it because it made them all look ridiculous and conflicted on how to spend their time. She clearly lied to Axios when caught red-handed, and then again when caught red-handed the second time. And these two were working on making Karine Jean-Pierre a star on our dime, Stu.
Mm-hmm. Every single penny of it we paid for. What an amazing time this is to look at it. And I read the Alex Thompson story in Axios. I read every single word of it. And then I reread it because it was just so enjoyable to go through. It's just incredible. And, you know, you mentioned Anthony Bernal as the enforcer in this story. Now, I will say, when speaking of enforcers, I listened to your Jake Tapper interview. There was some enforcing going on there. And I think Jake felt what it was like to have things enforced and his early coverage of this particular incident, you correctly called him out on. But I do think lost in what a great interview that was how good Alex Thompson was throughout this period. Alex was covering all of this stuff at the time. It's the type of stuff that we demand and ask for from the mainstream media and never seem to get. We never get these questions actually asked. We never get people following up on this stuff. And Alex correctly did do that through this period. I think one of the things a little bit that has been lost from the right, and this goes back to our happy moment that we're having today together, Megyn, is there is a little bit of a anger against the book even being written, speaking of the Tapper and Thompson book. And I think, honestly, it's been a really positive thing. I'm really happy that they wrote it. That doesn't mean they don't deserve criticism for some of their past positions in Jake's particular instance. But I think that is a story, but not the only story here. We've learned a lot from these books. We've learned a lot from the Alex Thompson story today. You know, the stuff about The View is amazing.
Oh my God.
I mean, do you know how intellectually unimpressive you must be to not be able to impress people on The View?
Yes,
exactly.
How dumb do you have to be to get rejected from The View? Oh my God. It's horrifying. Can you imagine? She must have had to go on some sort of antidepressant after that. Like, I don't even know what I do. I don't think I could come to terms with that. You truly are as dumb as just a goat. They'll take anybody over there. Anybody. And especially if you can say you were the former Biden press secretary and you're a lesbian and black and you got rejected, you are dumber than dirt.
You're starting, 3 steps from home in between third base and scoring, and you can't get across home plate. It's unbelievable. I mean, The View's basic programming strategy is to do a nationwide search for the 4 dumbest people on the planet and put them around a table. And they were like, sorry, Karine, you're just too terrible even for us.
You're not there.
Oh, I have to say, and this is probably a little bit evil. There's probably an evil part of me that's, the devil's on the shoulder a tad here, but I just can't get enough of this stuff. I know. Love this. Every Democrat that has been lying to us this entire time is now just coming to the table and just being like, oh yeah, by the way, you guys were totally right on everything you said. From Biden to Karine Jean-Pierre to COVID school lockdown.
To Megyn Kelly.
Yes, to Ibram Kendi. It's like all of it is coming through at once. And I'm enough of a pessimist.
Warm water. Come on, let's go swimming. It's wonderful.
It's so much. I'm enough of a pessimist to feel like eventually this is going to stop and things are going to turn negative. Let's just enjoy it while we're here. It might be warm waters right by the shore at a beautiful beach. There's probably a giant tsunami right around the corner. But for the moment, let's just
we're in there, Stu. We're swimming. We're doing the breaststroke. I see you. Obviously, you and I have been here for a long time. Oh my God, Ketanji Brown Jackson's in here. What's she doing here? Oh my God, half the Biden comm staff is now in our warm water swimming around. Great to see you. It's a glorious day. I don't want to close out Karine Jean-Pierre without doing a little bit from the Politico piece, which in some ways duplicates Axios. But I just want to make sure, okay, because we don't want to leave any goodness on the floor, on the editing room floor. It talks about her wanting to be the co-host of The View, never got an offer. Multiple Democrats who have worked with her believe what she's doing with this book is a grift. It's detonated long simmering grievances. They are angry about her pursuit of celebrity and personal media exposure. So now this is both publications reporting this. I'm reading from the Politico report here. The attention-grabbing ploy of this book lit up Democratic and Biden alumni, texting groups, and reignited frustrations that burned for years about her, according to 7 former Biden admin officials granted anonymity. Her halting, ineffectual briefings exasperated reporters and routinely offered material for the Republican Party's main account on X. She frustrated colleagues throughout the West Wing for focusing on raising her own profile while leaving the hands-on management of media relations and the White House press shop to other aides. So that's interesting. Like internally, they were pissed that they were having to do her work. She wasn't paying attention to the actual job. Several former colleagues expressed confusion. This is actually a good point here, as to how she seemingly intends to paint Biden as a victim, because she's going to talk about how the Democrat Party turned on him, and she seems to be angry about that. How she intends to paint Biden as a victim while pinning her own decision to leave the party on the, quote, broken White House. Both of those are from the Hachette press release yesterday, and they're exactly right. She talked about a broken White House, and yet the Democrats who backstabbed him. So how is it broken? How is she going to square those two things? It's a good point. Jean-Pierre's former staffers offered withering criticism of what they see as an opportunistic grift. She made a joke about being an independent last year, and now it's a book. All ideas are monetary, even the dumb ones, said one of the staffers. Wait, I sent my team this earlier. Stand by. There is somebody who, I got to try to find it. Oh, yeah. A guy named Tim Wu, White House policy staff. Oh, so hold on a second. He was special assistant to the president for tech and competition policy. And he tweeted out and then later deleted, from White House policy staff perspective, the real problem with Karine Jean-Pierre was that she was kind of dumb. No interest in understanding harder topics, just gave random, incoherent answers on policy. That he's on the record saying that. We know, but it's extraordinary to hear somebody get specific about it. Hold on, there's more. Another former colleague said, okay, let's see. While a number of former colleagues kept their comments private, Jeremy Edwards, who served in the press shop under Jean-Pierre, posted a succinct response to her book project on X, quote, LOL. One Democratic operative who worked with Jean-Pierre prior to her White House tenure called the sudden turnabout the most grifty thing I've seen in a long time, and that's saying something in Washington. One of the former Biden White House officials said it in a text to Politico. She was the public face telling us all that this White House was on track and that Biden was amazing. And now she doesn't even want to be a Democrat. She's making herself the middle ground here when Republicans hate her. She's not in any position to be a connector of our two-party system, and assuming she could be is just ego. It's so good. They're all ripping on her, some by name, saying how dumb she was, how she's a joke, and literally nobody's buying her ability to be an independent connector who somehow is going to heal the partisan breach, Stu. Back to my original point when her soundbite was playing of how those were all lies too. Literally nobody's going up to Karine Jean-Pierre saying, Karine, how did we get here? How do we solve this? Literally no one. It's a lie.
No one asks her questions like that. No one has any desire to hear her deep intellectual thoughts, which would sound very vacuous if presented. She is. Dumb is just a really good descriptor. Right?
Yeah.
Like, we can kind of complicate this, and you can kind of go try to say, oh, gosh, well, she was just, overly loyal to the president, and she was in a tough position, which she was. I mean, everybody in that job is in a somewhat tough position at times, but she could never handle it, even on the easiest days, even on days that were good for the Biden administration. She was still terrible. She was an idiot from the beginning of the time she got in there. I swear to you, I mean, look, I don't think Jen Psaki was a great press secretary, but I swear the reason Karine Jean-Pierre got this job was a plot by Jen Psaki to make Jen Psaki look good. Because in comparison, yeah, you're just like, I think she recommended her for that job specifically so that she would look like the greatest employee of all time. And
I love how you're like, you kind of date it, how we can put like an actual date on the dumbness. And it was right from day one. It reminds me of Trump on Rosie O'Donnell. She's a loser. Yeah. She's been a loser for a long time. Yes. I remember that it's not a new phenomenon. She's been a loser for a long time. Same with Karine Jean-Pierre. She's stupid. She's been stupid for a long time. From day one, nobody remembers a smart Karine Jean-Pierre.
There was not an era in her life where she was intelligent. That's just not one of those things that happened. And it shows even in her description of why she's writing the book, she's going independent. That can be an interesting story, right? Like if someone on the left was going independent, or if someone on the right was going independent, and they said, hey, this has become too partisan, and I don't like the way that this system is playing out. That can be an interesting story to hear from someone, not Karine Jean-Pierre, because she's a moron and probably can't even read, let alone write, but that's a whole other situation. I think there's a fascinating part of this that she seems to be arguing. The reason she's going independent is not because the Democrats were too partisan, it's because they weren't partisan enough. Mm-hmm. They also bailed on Biden when it became so obvious that it was going down the wrong road, that they didn't stick by him based purely out of partisan loyalty, which was the only argument left. And my favorite quotes of all the stories that you read is the one where they say she's lost her only constituency, partisan Democrats. Because the only argument for her from the day she walked into that job was that she had a D near her name somewhere. That was it.
Well, and also an L and a B and a W.
It's true.
Those are the things she kept reminding. She was like the Don Lemon of the White House. I'm black and I'm gay.
She had many intersectional varieties that she checked those boxes.
And intersexual.
Yes, both, apparently. But I mean, look at conservatives with many of those boxes checked. They're still hated by Democrats, right?
Yeah.
You find a gay Republican that, they're despised, guaranteed, maybe even more than the
and black Republicans too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's funny to see this, and it's funny to see her attempt this. The other part of it is no one's going to buy it. I mean, I don't know what her advance was on this book.
We're going to buy it, so you don't have to.
I love that. Good, because I don't want to,
well,
Megyn.
I'm going to be listening
to the show when you review it.
I will do it because I love all of you, but I don't recommend anybody buy this book. It's going to be full of just empty pablum. Do we have time to play that Alex Thompson song? How much time do we have left, Steve? All right, let's play this. Alex Thompson on the book tour made an interesting point the other day. Here it is.
If you're a reporter, a White House reporter in D.C., and you are going to be really adversarial and tough, but fair, on Trump, you get snaps all across town. You get invited to every single garden party and book party imaginable. But if you do it, with Biden or even with Obama, there is a different social cost, and I do think it affects the reporting.
100% right.
Everyone is saying the things that we said forever are true today, Megyn. I don't know what we did to deserve this. I love it. I'm going to bask in every second of it and just pray it doesn't end.
It's so weird. It really, like I said, are we here? Is this happening? We're praising Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, the left, mainstream so-called media saying all the things that we've been saying. We're winning on every point. Everybody's turned on Karine Jean-Pierre. It's just so great. George Clooney's making a fool of himself. This is my kind of day. Now, up next, a little fly in the ointment as Trump just came out and swatted down Elon. He's had about enough of Elon's criticisms of the big, beautiful bill. We'll play the soundbite that just dropped from the White House. Don't go away. Okay, Stu's with us when we come back. Let's be real. Our modern world is toxic. From ultra-processed foods to environmental chemicals, our bodies are under attack every single day. And one of the biggest casualties, our digestion. Millions of people suffer with indigestion, bloating, and stomach upset. But here's some good news. We do not have to just accept this. Our ancestors had an answer all along. Bitter foods. Did you know this? Bitter herbs and plants have been used for centuries to stimulate digestion, support detox, and to keep the gut thriving. I want to tell you about Just Thrive Digestive Bitters. With a powerful blend of ancient, time-tested bitter herbs, Just Thrive says just one dose before meals can wake up your digestive system. And Just Thrive says it helps you break down food properly, and it helps with bloating and sluggish digestion. Consider ditching the modern toxins and getting back to what our bodies were designed for. Consider Just Thrive Digestive Bitters. Available now at justthrivehealth.com. Use code Megyn to save 20% off your first order. Justthrivehealth.com, promo code MEGYN. It's not going well between Trump and Elon. Here's what's happening. So Elon recently left the administration and his status as a special government employee, and they had a brotherly news conference where they were patting each other on the back just last week. And then Elon said, I can stand it no longer. I have got to say what I feel. The big, beautiful bill is an absolute abomination, a disgusting abomination, ridiculing the amount of spending and the amount of pork that's in there, these pet projects that you've got to give this lawmaker or that in order to get them to be a yes on the bill. And he's ripping on it, and Trump is selling it at the same time, and clearly has a disagreement with Elon about this. So Trump had been holding his fire. Elon went off for 2 days in a row, started Tuesday, continued Wednesday. Trump didn't say anything. He let off some steam. But you know how Trump is. You keep poking the bear, and the bear is going to give you the claw eventually. And it just happened. Here's the first soundbite from Trump behind. He's in the Oval for this, is he not, team? I think he's in the Oval talking about this. Yeah. Okay. SOT 1.
I can understand why he's upset. Remember, he was here for a long time. You saw a man who was very happy when he stood behind the Oval desk. And even with the black eye, I said, do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup. But he said, no, I don't think so, which is interesting and very nice. He wants to be who he is, so you could make that statement too, I guess. Look, Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore. I was surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had a wonderful send-off. He said wonderful things about me. You couldn't have nicer. Said the best thing. He's worn the hat. Trump was right about everything. And I am right about the great, big, beautiful bill.
Okay. So you can tell it's getting tenser. But then he went on. We're getting the soundbite ready. This just happened. I'll give you the preview, and then we'll play it when we have it ready. But he came out and said, I would have won Pennsylvania without Elon, and suggested maybe he's suffering from some Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, God. And then Elon came out. Oh, by the way, Trump also said, I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anyone. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden, he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out we're going to have to cut electric vehicle mandates, EV mandates, subsidies for, green energy and like places like Tesla. He hasn't said anything bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. And then Elon came out and said, okay, first of all, false. This bill was never shown to me, not even once. It was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. Whatever, he continued on X. Keep the EV and solar incentive cuts in the bill. Fine. Even though there are no oil and gas subsidies, none of those are touched. Very unfair. but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in this bill. In the entire history of civilization, there's never been legislation that is both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful one. Slim and beautiful is the way to go. And here was that soundbite with Trump going after him on Pennsylvania. Watch.
I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here. Better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate. And I'll be honest, I think he misses the place. I think he got out there and all of a sudden he wasn't in this beautiful Oval Office. He's not the first. People leave my administration and they love us. And then at some point they miss it so badly, and some of them embrace it and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I guess they call it, but we have it with others too. They leave and they wake up in the morning and the glamour's gone, the whole world is different, and they become hostile.
Oh boy. And then, Stu, Elon tweeted out, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Such ingratitude. Oh, your thoughts?
Oh, man. Well, maybe this was all too good to be true, Megyn.
We loved that first hour. That first hour was so fun.
I know. Now it all crumbles. This sort of super team combo with Elon and Trump was always one of those things you've wondered about how long it might last, right? I mean, they're two very big egos, two people who do not like to back down at all and kind of live their lives with, I'm going to say whatever I want about whomever I want. I think there's a lot of Republicans who would be terrified of taking on Elon Musk, from him obviously controlling X to the fact that he's kind of like became, the Republicans' biggest benefactor, right? Like maybe that's one of the reasons why this took a couple of days. But frankly, when you start saying stuff to Donald Trump like you would not have won without me, I don't know that there's anything that you could say to Donald Trump that would piss him off more than that sentence. I fear
other
that
than you lost in 2020. Those two,
right? Yes, those two things, and they're very closely related, right? I think, it's funny. I was really optimistic with Elon Musk joining the way that he did. I read his autobiography, or not his autobiography, the biography that was written about him, but the guy followed him around for months and months and months and months.
Walter Isaacson.
Thank you very much. The book is great, and it's really interesting. And you see Elon Musk, there's a lot of flaws in him. He's not a perfect guy. But one of the things that was really encouraging about him entering government was the way he approached these things. He often looked at the systems that had been ingrained forever and questioned them and ripped them apart and made them more efficient. And so I had really high hopes for this, but it always felt like there was a bit of a wick on a time bomb a wick, I guess it wouldn't be a time bomb if there was a wick, but I'm making up the analogy as I go here, Megyn.
I got it. I'm picturing the cartoon bomb that does have a wick.
Exactly. It's funny. When this all happened, I was with a group of friends back right after the election. Trump won, and we were all kind of sitting around, and all of us were rooting for this to be really successful, to Trump to do great, and Elon to be great, helpful. And as we talked about it, we just kind of came up with this conclusion that, oh no, this is going to turn bad. It's not going to last that long. And we actually had a bet in which we predicted the date of the breakup. And my pick, I want this to be known nationally, was May 29th. That was my pick. It is June 5th. So I missed by less than a week. And in the commercial break, after you told me about that clip, Megyn, I went into the group chat and I just texted my Venmo. I'm not happy that I'm going to win that bet, but I believe that bet is won.
Yeah, it's not a surprise. It's unfortunate because, it's so much better for America, I think, to have Elon on board with the Trump agenda. Maybe they will be again. Maybe the big, beautiful bill, which Mark Halpern was explaining to us yesterday, will pass because it must pass or Trump's entire presidency is in danger. That is what he said. Maybe Elon will just swallow it and get past it and realize there's still so many areas of cooperation. And like it does not serve us at all to have him supporting Democrats. Like yesterday, he was saying people who vote for this thing will pay a price. Like, I don't think he's actually going to run against Republicans. I mean, what he's getting now online is people like George Conway tweeting, "I love Elon Musk. Don't you?" So what does this do for the left now, Stu? Are they going to start buying Teslas again? Are they going to, is it okay to drive one? You don't have to firebomb Tesla stores any longer since Elon is taking on Trump. I don't know, but it's not over because there's, I think, zero chance Trump lets "you would have lost the election without me" lie. He is not going to let that lie without pummeling Elon. It's about to get ugly.
Oh man, it's going to get really ugly. And I don't, I know you're not either. I'm not excited about it. I think it was a really positive thing. And hopefully there is something that happens. I still think I agree with Mark that something's going to pass. It might not be this exact bill or something super close to it. There may be a simplification process that has to occur over a period of time. We will see on that. And maybe Elon can come around to that. I think it's really negative for the country if Elon gets embraced by the left and goes back that direction. I mean, his transformation, but the way he was treated by the media and the left is one of the most fascinating developments in politics over the past decade. I mean, here's a guy who was absolutely loved. We were told global warming is the greatest existential threat and electric cars are the answer. This man built this company and did incredible things, not to mention what he did in solar and so many other aspects that should be very pleasing to the left and were for a long time until, I think it really started with him wanting to keep his factory open and continue to make those electric cars during COVID. And from there's been this movement. He committed the ultimate grievous sin by supporting Donald Trump to the left. So I don't know that they can bring him back into the fold. They've been calling him a Nazi for the past year, saying he's giving Nazi salutes at rallies.
Yeah,
they've treated him.
They will not take him back.
I don't think they'll take him back. He's the type of person that doesn't care, I think. He doesn't care what people think about him. And of course, Trump doesn't either. And when you have that sort of battle, it doesn't feel like we're headed in a good direction. I will maintain our optimism from the earlier hour and hope that something can come out of this. But it's hard to see that path right now.
Yashar Ali tweeted out as President Trump expressed disappointment in Elon and said he wasn't sure they would have a great relationship again, Tesla's stock price took a sharp dive and shows the little graph going choo down. We'll see what happens, but this is the beginning, I think, of a saga. It's not the end. It's not even the end of their relationship. It's like, I think this is the beginning of something that hopefully will get resolved quickly. They should pick up the phone and chat. That would be the nicest thing to see. Meanwhile, I've got to get to this just because it's graduation season, right? All these colleges, you're seeing everybody graduate, and high schools are starting to do it. And somebody who had a special graduation in her family that she's celebrating, which I will get to on the back end of this first clip, is Sunny Hostin. We talked about The View and how dumb they are. Here's, just in case you forgot, Sunny Hostin's view of America.
I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have.
It's stolen land, first of all, okay? California is stolen land.
The biggest threat to our country today, says the FBI's director, is white supremacy and domestic terrorism. Merrick Garland said the biggest threat to our democracy is white supremacy and domestic terrorism. How do you come together when it's homegrown terror? And we have never addressed why there is that issue that remains in this country 400 years later.
Okay, so we have white supremacists running around this country. It's the biggest threat we face. And she's deeply worried about her children's future. You heard her there. I'm very worried about my children's future. Well, fear not, Sunny, because look at the picture she posted just the other day. Here is her son graduating from Harvard. Yes, her black son graduated from Harvard, even though it's a country of white supremacists. And she's deeply, deeply worried for his future. I'm sure he has no chance ahead of him, Stu. The effing nerve of this woman. Let me tell you, Virtually nobody listening to this program is going to have a child who gets into Harvard, never mind graduates from Harvard. Sunny Hostin made that happen because she's a host on The View and because she's a woman of color and she gave birth to a son of color. And all of that greased the wheels for this kid right into Harvard, obviously. But she still gets to run around calling us all white supremacists, a terrible country in which her child is endangered. The absolute rank hypocrisy and disgusting dishonesty of her commentary has never been so obvious as this week with that photo.
It's almost like a pastor who's preaching the Bible while committing all sorts of infidelities behind the scenes. It's like here she is painting this picture to her audience. She wants them to believe that they can't make it, that their opportunity has been destroyed, that there's no hope. I mean, you listen to the way she talks about that. Who would want to even live in this country? And then you realize that she's in the middle of living some version of the American dream. She's first of all a talentless moron that's making millions of dollars on television. I guess it's a weird part of the American dream, but lately it seems to be a pretty consistent one. But on the other fact, even bigger than that, your son achieving something like that, watching your son go through that and achieving some, look, Harvard, I have a lot of problems with it. I'm sure it's pretty difficult and you have to be pretty smart to get in, even if you are being helped at some level. Graduating Harvard is an achievement. It's the type of thing that you think.
Didn't Joy Reid graduate from Harvard? I think Joy Reid. So let's be careful.
That can't be true.
Sure
if that's true, we should cut it. We should cut the land off and push it off into the ocean. But I don't know if that's true. It's hard to believe because she, even on the View, by the View standards, is an idiot.
My producer's confirming.
God. All right,
yeah.
That's it. Okay, just what do we do here? Can we send it to another country?
But she's another grievance-filled person who's not grateful at all for the education she got at one of our elite institutions. It's just the nerve of Sunny Hostin to try to make us feel sorry for him. He's endangered. I'm deeply worried about his future. Are you? Is he going to have a tough time as a young Black American male graduating from Harvard, which you well knew when you were making all your stupid, empty complaints?
Oh, it's so good. And the problem, of course, here, Megyn, is that education is what fuels her commentary. It's that messaging from our elite institutions, which is constantly telling every person who goes through the doors how terrible the country is they're about to walk into. And that has led to so many massive problems. I mean, look, we can talk about the Trump-Elon drama. It sucks. I don't want that to happen. But when he's looking at these institutions that are watching Jews get lit on fire in parks and then coming out and constantly holding pro-Palestinian rallies, not only the day after that, but the day after October 7th, they were doing this. That type of stuff happening is a core problem. Thank God Trump is there to target that and make everybody aware of it and try to do something about it, because you get this sort of, feedback loop. And the feedback loop here, I hope this isn't true with Sunny Hostin's child. I hope they didn't learn these things. I hope he's smart enough to recognize the idiocy and the total disparity of what he's being told by his mother and probably what he's being told in college and the real world, where he's going to go out and have an incredibly successful career, probably make hundreds of thousands of dollars out the door.
Yep.
I don't understand how you can see those two things in the same place.
Her lies about the country are infuriating. It's like, you can make it in this country, Black or white. What you need to check is your grievance. If you work hard, Black, white, or other, you can make it in America. That's the beauty of being born here or obtaining American citizenship. And every normal American knows that. And even Sunny Hostin on some level must know that with her privileged life and her huge mansion, which she's put online before and we've shown it, and her kid at Harvard. It's just she wants us to believe in this dark, as you say, dystopian version of our country while she's secretly living this lavish life of luxury. Well, we're on to you. Your grift, like your friend Karine. I've got to end with this. It's weird, but we've got to talk about it. Meghan Markle posted a bizarre video on her social media yesterday, which sent several people into absolute meltdown. It is the cringiest, most uncomfortable piece of tape I've seen in a long time. I'm sorry, but I'm going to make you watch it. SOT 24.
1 month, 2 months, 3 months, hit the baby mama when I'm stepping through the door.
She's
yeah, I'm pregnant,
supposedly 9 months pregnant in the hospital room, dancing with a big belly. Harry's there too. She's kind of twerking. She's going to twerk. Here comes Harry. She spreads her legs. She hikes her dress. She circles her genitals around and around. Okay. This is deeply problematic on a number of levels. Number one, here's the problem. We don't like you, Meghan Markle. We don't like you. And no amount of posting videos that you think are going to humanize you will make us like you. You've already shown us your true colors. We know who you are. You helped kill the Queen. You didn't give two shits about calling the royal family racist while Prince Philip was on his deathbed and casting aspersions on him. You have completely undermined all the amazing gifts that this family has given you as nothing and suggested that they didn't care you were suicidal and they were the ones who drove you there. So she has absolutely no love lost between her and most people who may be somewhat warm towards the royal family, even if we're not big on royalty. She's reportedly bullied virtually everybody who's ever worked for her. She can't keep a staff in London. She can't keep a staff in Montecito. She's a bully. She's obsessed with her own ego, face on television, etc., and playing the victim. So no amount of humanizing videos, even if she managed to find one, are going to work. You know, if you actually are a good person, you don't show up at the Uvalde mass school shooting and put yourself on camera and make it about you. You don't see photo op when you see dead children, which she did. So spare us the attempt, okay? It's a waste of everybody's time. But secondly, like the gross disrespect to the intimacy and privacy of marriage and childbirth. You know, there are some moments that are supposed to be between a husband and a wife only. And the moments before you give birth to your child is one of them, when you are together in that room and your child is coming. And maybe you do have a fun moment. This is not how I spent my moments before giving birth, but maybe you do have a fun moment, but it's private. It's actually holy. And for her to need to make it into an ego trip, which she's clearly doing. Look at me dancing. I'm still fun and I'm sexy and I have this great marriage. And here's Harry being like a normal guy is disrespectful, I think, to the moment, to the child, and truly to like the sanctity of what goes on for any humans who are actually in that situation. She's drunk on her own ego. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are, what did I just watch? What a bizarre, you've now ruined the entire vibe of the first hour, Megyn. I hope you realize what you've done.
My apologies.
I will never forgive you for such a thing. It's funny because watching it is, you're right, like there's maybe a thought that they have a private moment like that, and maybe it's nice between them, and it's a nice memory of a silly moment before she gives birth. What it feels like to me is she's in a PR firm meeting and someone says, we need to humanize you. Go through your phone, find some fun moments of you and Harry, and we'll post them and everyone will like you again. You can't manufacture that stuff, right? It feels fake. It feels weird. I don't understand why they would think something like that would work. But these are not people who are just posting on a whim, right? Like this is an entire industry. As I know you've covered this in depth. This is a whole industry. They've got people working on this 24 hours a day to try to make this Meghan Markle thing into a thing. I don't think it's been very successful so far, but no. I feel like this is just a blatant attempt at it.
It sort of reminds me of when Chrissy Teigen had what we now know was an abortion, which she at the time told us was a miscarriage, and posted photos of her crying, like hysterical in the hospital room. It was so weird. First of all, who takes pictures of themselves when they're crying and then posts them online, especially after losing a baby? Look, what the F? I don't get it. This is not losing a baby, thank God, but it is just as intimate and none of our effing business. But she needs us to love her. So she will do whatever it takes. And she doesn't know how to make us love her. The other thing I'm going to say, and I know this is weird, but there's one of those conspiracy theories on the internet that she might not have actually carried her babies, one or both, that they may have used a surrogate. Trust me, because I'm neck deep in all the news around these two. And there are many people who long before today are convinced she used surrogates and that her pregnancies were fake, one or both of them. And this is the only time that I've actually indulged the theory, because if we can show that video again, I don't know, can we show it without playing the weird sound? That belly looks very abnormal. That it looks very strange. If you look up close in the video, and I encourage people, look at this. It looks like there's like a bag or like some sort of something shoved up under a dress. It does not look like a pregnant belly. It looks all bumpy. It's very strange. It looks like what you'd get if you put like a pillowcase full of like socks or something under your dress. You got to look up close. There's very strange bumps coming off of that pregnant belly. I don't know why, Stu, but for the first time ever, I'm kind of like, is this something we should be indulging? Because it doesn't look normal to me. The belly doesn't look normal, doesn't look like where a pregnant woman's belly is. And I don't understand what all those bumps on the belly are. I don't get it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it does look different, I guess. I mean, I suppose it's possible that, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I will say I noticed the same thing you're noticing looking at it. I mean, it's the first thing that I think kind of pops into your mind. It's like, what's going on there?
Why is her stomach so bumpy? Maybe they had stuck some monitors on there, but normally they don't give you like remote monitors on your belly. I've had 3 kids. All the monitors they stick on you are connected to the thing that's right next to your hospital bed. She wasn't wired up at all. I don't know what's going on under there. I don't trust her. And I wouldn't be surprised if she were pulling some sort of a subterfuge on us. Let's face it, it's not beyond her.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think she is kind of well known as a person who will kind of go to any lengths at this point to improve her image and to try to smooth all of these bumps out. Not pointing to her belly, but to her PR situation. And it's funny because I think in some ways it sort of connects to what we were talking about with Karine Jean-Pierre. It feels like that same type of effort, like this sort of desperate attempt to paper over something else that's going on. So I don't know. I mean, if you get to the bottom of that controversy, if you can just journalist your way to figuring out if that was fake or not, I mean, Pulitzer. You've got the Pulitzer coming your way.
I don't think she faked her pregnancies. I realize that all reason and logic would dictate she did get pregnant. I mean, we know they have 2 kids, but the theory is that she had surrogates have them out of vanity. But we did see her at various stages in the pregnancies. That's the first time I've actually looked at her and said, holy shit, what, am I wrong? Because that stomach does not look normal. Okay. Stu Burguiere, thank you for playing. It's been quite an emotional journey for us. I really appreciate you doing this with me.
It has. You started me on such a high and now you're leaving me on a low. I don't know how to feel about this.
Well, and like a question. It's a question. We had a low and then it was just a question, like that little emoji that you can have on your iPhone with like the one spectacle in the eye looking up. That's us right now.
We're there.
See you,
this
Stu.
is it. This is the journey. Thank you so much, Megyn.
Okay. Up next, so excited for Representative Brandon Gill. Who's ever excited to talk to a member of Congress? Let's be honest. I mean, that's not normally what we do here for a reason. But this guy is, as I referred to him before, a stone cold assassin of ridiculous leftists who get called before Congress. Cannot wait to meet him. He's next. More and more Americans are prioritizing their health and getting back in shape. But diet and cardio alone are not enough. If you really want to build muscle and burn fat, you must do strength training. Introducing Jacked Up Fitness. Their all-in-one home gyms are already best in class, and their all-new X Series elevates home fitness to a whole new level. The Power Rack Pro X functional trainer lets you do hundreds of exercises, basically everything you used to do at the gym, all from the comfort of your own spare room or garage. And if you are new to strength training, they offer a free Get Jacked Up program that is full body video workouts. Simply press play and follow along. So no more excuses, right? Go to getjackedup.com and sign up for their free training program. And when you're ready to purchase your own Power Rack Pro X, use our promo code MK to save 10% at checkout. That's getjackedup.com. Homeowners, you need to listen to this. In today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity could be the target. Here's how it works. Criminals can forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and just like that, your home title can be transferred out of your name. Then they try to take out loans using your equity, or they even sell your property. You won't even know it's happened until you get a collection or a foreclosure notice in the mail. So when is the last time you checked on your home title? The answer is probably never, but you need to do something about that right now. Home Title Lock can tell you if you're already a victim. Use our promo code Megyn at HometitleLock.com and you will get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud does happen, they will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. Go to HometitleLock.com. Use promo code Megyn. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code MEGYN. Let me take you back, all right, to back when I was at Fox News. And what still I consider the best interview I've ever done. I mean, it's just the greatest interview ever. And it was with a guy named Bill Ayers, who was one of the founders of the Weather Underground, a domestic terrorist group, which was bombing the United States regularly. I mean, it's crazy to think about. They were. It was a protest of the Vietnam War, and they bombed a bunch of federal buildings in Washington, D.C. They targeted the home of a judge, scaring his child to within an inch of his life. We did an in-depth piece on them, and ultimately, it was crazy. We got Bill Ayers, this hard leftist out of Chicago. Of course, he wound up in the university system, to come into Fox News and sit down and be interviewed by yours truly. Now, how did we do that? It was a great backstory. And it was because of my pal, Dinesh D'Souza, who I knew very well and whose movies I promoted whenever they came out on my shows on Fox News. And Dinesh had interviewed Bill Ayers for one of his movies. And he said, MK, I think I can get him for you. I'm like, you go, guy. Let's see if you can do that. And he did it. So Dinesh D'Souza is a mountain mover and a bit of a miracle worker. And since I've left Fox and over the years, we've lost touch a little. I had him on to promote 2,000 Mules when he dropped that movie. But it's not like I see him as much as I did when we were both at Fox. Well, it wasn't a huge surprise to me in some ways to learn that Dinesh's daughter, who obviously was raised by a very smart, savvy man, married her own smart, savvy man. And I found out that my number one hero in Congress, in the House, Brandon Gill, a representative from the great state of Texas, is her husband. He's 31 years old. He married Dinesh's daughter, only one of his many great decisions. And he has become like a surgeon with these leftist liars who get called before Congress. You know how these representatives, they always blow it. They just bloviate, and no one wants to hear them bloviate. We don't even listen when they do these 7-minute speeches. Shut up and ask them good questions. Learn how to do it. He's better than all of them. He's high entertainment, and he will never lose. When you see him up against anybody, if he asks you something, he's got the receipt, so you might as well just roll over. Who could forget, for example, his takedown of NPR's CEO about her insane past tweets about white superiority and reparations? This was the moment we fell in love with Brandon Gill. Here it is.
Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to be
to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I have never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, "Yes, the North. Yes, all of us. Yes, America. Yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt. Yes, reparations. Yes, on this day."
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
Was it? Brilliant. Welcome to the show. Representative, so nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so tell me everything. Start it all. How did you develop this great cross-examination style? Because my understanding is you're not a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer. And, you think of it as you've got 5 minutes with these people. That's all you get. And I'm a freshman, so I always go last, which means oftentimes all the good questions have been asked already. So we have our team go through all the things that these people have said, that they've tweeted, that they've said in interviews or that they've written. And we just ask them about it. Whenever you have Catherine Marr, she has a long history of saying absurd, wild, outlandish things. And I just wanted to simply ask her about it. Your firm, NPR, receives millions of dollars every single year. We're paying your salary. I think it's fair for me to ask you about some of the crazy things you've said in the past. And the funny thing about that hearing in particular is we could only get through a few of her tweets. There's a whole lot more we wanted to get to, but just didn't have time.
Oh, it was amazing. The part where, she's like, you're like, are you for reparations? And she's like, no. And you're like, you tweeted that you are. And she's like, no, you said you read that book. No, I never read that book. You said I took the whole day off to sit at home reading the book. It was so great. So one of my questions for you is, now that we've seen you time and time again, bring the receipts. Like they know if you're holding up this paper, you've got them. You've proven you're careful. Are you getting more compliance from the witnesses in rolling over earlier?
I think that they know. I've noticed in the hearings now, you'll see the hostile witnesses, the ones the Democrats pick, kind of eyeing me before I go because they know something's coming at them now. But so many of these people have never been questioned on the crazy things that they believed. And Catherine Marr in particular, there was a time from about 2016 to 2022 or so, whenever the Black Lives Matter movement really blossomed, whenever anti-racism was a really popular thing, all of these far-left movements were in vogue. And all people like her had to do was just spout off these talking points, these nonsensical terms, whiteness, cisgender mobility privilege, demeaning white men in particular. And that's all it took for them to rise through the ranks of these utterly rotten left-wing institutions. And now all of that is coming home to roost because the American people can see how deeply sick this stuff is. And I think that we can't just let it pass. We've got to hold these people accountable.
Yes, thank you for asking questions of them. You don't give them the floor, but you ask questions and get an answer and then impeach with the prior inconsistent statement. It's beautiful. It's what you learn how to do in law school when you're becoming a trial lawyer. But you're not a trial lawyer. You're the son of a rancher, right? In the Dallas area. Tell us about your childhood.
That's right. I grew up in a cattle ranch in West Texas outside of Abilene. So grew up working cows, driving tractors and backhoes, building fence, doing everything you would expect to do on a 1,000-acre cattle ranch. Never became a lawyer. I worked in finance for a little bit professionally and then started a conservative media business that I ran prior to running for office. Never thought I'd be running this young at all, but had the opportunity and jumped in. But, it doesn't take a legal mind to expose these people. All it takes is their own tweets, the things that they put out on their own. And that's the crazy thing, is that whenever you just ask them, you said you believe in reparations, do you? Then I think they realize how nuts that is. And everybody else watching can see it too.
Well, your other skill, obviously, given your background, is a lifetime of exposure to what actual bullshit looks like and smells like. You learn firsthand, and you know it when you see and hear it. Thank God for the rest of us. So there was an exchange just yesterday that we also enjoyed. This is the CEO of the National Council of Nonprofits. Before we show this, why was she there? What were you guys trying to dig into?
You know, we're digging into the NGO industrial complex. This is a group of nonprofits and NGOs that receive hundreds of billions of dollars every single year from taxpayer expense. And the Democrats brought this lady in, who's the head of a nonprofit sort of umbrella group that represents a whole lot of different charities. Some receive tax dollars, some don't. And they brought her in basically to make the case that all nonprofits are great. They're, building houses for the homeless and they're feeding the poor. And the reality couldn't be further from the truth. This woman was a far left activist who is masquerading as a nonpartisan, nonprofit NGO person. So wanted to expose her as well and show that this is the person that the Democrats want to speak for their side of the aisle.
Okay, so her name is Diane Yentl, President and Chief Executive Officer of the National Council of Nonprofits. Roll it, SOT 31.
Are you a racist?
I'm not a racist.
You're not a racist. Particularly interesting because according to one of your affiliate charities under your nonprofit umbrella, denial of racism constitutes covert white supremacy. Are you a covert white supremacist?
Sir, I'm here to talk about the essential work that nonprofits
Are you a
do.
covert white supremacist?
Can I talk about the work that nonprofits do in
No,
your
I'm
district?
asking you if you're a
Because I think
covert
that's
white supremacist.
I am here to talk about the essential work that nonprofits do. If you'd like to ask me a
I
question
am utterly
about
dumbfounded.
nonprofits
You are on
in your
record right now,
district
and you will
or
not say
throughout
that
the
you are not a
country.
covert white supremacist?
I don't have a definition in front of me.
That is really, really astounding. I can answer very directly that I am not a covert white supremacist, and I imagine all of my colleagues can as well. I think you ought to reevaluate what you're doing in the nonprofit sector.
So what's so brilliant about it is she could see you were laying the trap. She could see that she kind of had to say she was a covert white supremacist if you followed her own logic, right? Saying you're not a racist makes you a covert white supremacist. And so she didn't want to give you the point, that I am one, and concede the error of her own logic. So she just kept refusing to say it without thinking, why am I refusing to say this? This is such a basic denial that I should give.
I was a little dumbfounded during that hearing because it was so easy for her to just say no. And I gave her 2 or 3 minutes. And I kept asking her, are you sure you want to answer that way? Would you please? I was basically begging her to tell everybody she was not a white supremacist. And she just refused to do it.
Because it's either your logic was faulty or you're a white supremacist. And she chose A, or she chose B. She chose B. She was like, I'm fine leaving it out there that I might be a covert white supremacist. I'm good with that. It's just, that's very clever. That's very well done. Now, I have read that your role model is Jim Jordan. Is it true?
That is absolutely true. I think he's been one of the most effective congressmen we've seen in a long time.
So he's great. Trey Gowdy, he also was amazing at it. And honestly, you three are just in a very small class. I'm sure there's a couple others who I'm forgetting, but it's so rare that you actually enjoy a congressional hearing. And as you point out, by the time they get to the last guy, you're done. Everybody, are you noticing better attendance at these things when you go?
We've noticed that people are paying a lot more attention to these things. I don't make the rules that these leftists set up. If Democrats want to come up with the idea that everybody is either a racist or a covert white supremacist, then let's hold them to the same standards as well. I didn't make that rule, but they need to hold to that as well because they're the ones who made it. But I have noticed in the hearings more and more people showing up.
Talk to me about your wife and your father-in-law. It's such a small world. I love that you have this connection. Did you and your wife meet in college?
We did. We both met when we were in college at Dartmouth. We met in a Christian student organization that we were both part of and led through college. I met her whenever she's a year younger than I am, and I saw her at one of the events that we were hosting, thought she was beautiful, asked her out on a date, and then got friend zoned. So I was stuck in the friend zone for 2 years, but was very persistent and got out of it. And then we got married shortly after.
And when you got to know her dad, were you delighted? Oh, this is sweet. Here's you down on one knee for the listening audience in front of a beautiful fall background and lake. Have you spent much time with Dinesh? Do you know Dinesh well? I don't know anything about, how close their family is, but.
Oh, no, Dinesh very well. Talk to him regularly. I would consider him sort of a political mentor of mine, and a personal mentor as well. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. He's somebody that you can ask.
Yes.
You can sit down with him. You can ask him about anything in history, anything in philosophy, anything about politics. And if you're willing to listen, he can talk. He can lecture for an hour if you want to. I mean, just encyclopedic mind about all of the things that we're working on now. So we've got a great relationship. It makes for particularly fascinating Christmas dinners with Danielle and me and Dinesh.
So did you, because not many people will leave, Wall Street and a hedge fund for Congress before they've made $100 million, which I know you definitely didn't do in your first couple of years. So, I mean, it's a big sacrifice. I realize some people get rich in Congress, like Nancy Pelosi, but your better bet was to stay on Wall Street. So what made you leave?
I was a part of some conservative student groups in college, and we were sort of the rabble-rousers, very liberal campus, just sort of going against the grain, and I loved it. I loved being part of the political fight. And as much as I loved my time in finance, I wanted to get back into that fight. And this was at a time whenever Joe Biden was president. The left seemed to really be ascendant in every single way. And I knew that we needed a media ecosystem that could push back against the mainstream media narrative. So I started a conservative media business to do that, to defend the president, to defend good conservatives in Congress who were actually fighting back hard. So I did that for several years. This was right at the beginning of the Biden administration, whenever I started that.
Well, because you said you wanted to defend the president, which I doubt you wanted to do.
To defend President Trump, you're right.
Okay.
To defend President Trump. And I did that for several years and loved it. And my wife and I live in Texas. We live in a little town called Flower Mound. And kind of unexpectedly, the sitting congressman announced that he was retiring totally out of the blue. And we realized that we wanted to make sure that we had good conservative representation. And the way I see it is, in a district like mine that's very Republican, it's not good enough anymore just to be a good vote. We need people who are going to go into Washington and who are going to fight back hard and really swing at the left just as hard as they're swinging at us. Because if we don't do that, we're going to lose. And that's what I've sought to do
You're becoming a star the old-fashioned way, just by being excellent, not by being an AOC who's obsessed with posting videos of herself assembling her furniture. It's like you're just actually being amazing, and that's how we came to know you, and I think that's how everybody has come to know you. Have you been impressed with the high level of intellect and seriousness of your colleagues in the House, left and right?
I've both been impressed and very disappointed at times as well. Washington is its own ecosystem. It has its own vernacular. It operates in a way that's very foreign, I think, to the way most of the people in this country see the world. And I think that that's a problem. I think that there's, for a long time, especially on our side of the aisle, a disconnect between the way Washington approaches politics and the way our voters want us to approach politics. And one of those is that we've got to fight. Everybody in this country, Republicans especially, can see our country being taken away from us, whether it's open borders or boys and girls sports or seeing the left take over really every single facet of civil society. They're wondering, what in the world are our representatives in Washington doing? And that's the kind of fight that we've got to bring. And that's what I hope to see become more normal in this town.
Okay, I want to play one more on the subject of boys and girls sports when you had in the chairman of USA Fencing, and here's what happened, SOT 34.
I'm just asking you, yes or no, do you think men should be allowed in women's locker rooms?
I don't have a personal opinion on
You don't have you have a personal opinion on a lot of things, but not on that?
Sure. I mean, it's a locker room is not really an area where people interact.
So the answer is yes.
I don't
Do you
really
think
have
that men should be allowed to share showers with women in athletic facilities?
I think that showering is a private activity and that it should be private.
and it should be private. There's oftentimes communal showers. Are you okay with men showering with women?
I don't have an opinion on that in the context of USA.
You don't? So. Interesting. That's an astounding thing to not have an opinion on. I think most normal people have an opinion on that.
It's so fun. I got to ask you a question before you go, a newsy question. Seeing a bit of a war break out between Trump and Elon on the big, beautiful bill. Elon is threatening Republicans who vote for it, suggesting he might even come after them politically. On whose side do you fall?
Listen, this bill, there's always things you can do to make any piece of legislation better. And I agree with a lot of the things that Elon is saying, but this bill delivers on so many of the promises that we made to voters: border security, military funding, pushing back against the transgender nonsense. I mean, this is an extension of the Trump tax cuts, which would be huge for the economy. So I think that this is a bill that we've got to get passed.
All right, so you're Team Trump, which will probably serve you well. Brandon Gill, thank you so much for what you do and for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. It was so great. So great to have somebody to root for in that body, is it not? Okay, we are back tomorrow with Ben Shapiro and Red Scare. What a fun show for a Friday afternoon. We will see you then.